Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling confused? Not because you lost the argument, but because somehow, without realizing it, you started doubting yourself. Maybe you felt guilty, even though you didn't do anything wrong. Maybe you agreed to something you never wanted to do. Or maybe you left feeling emotionally drained, while the other person seemed completely satisfied. The truth is, manipulation rarely looks like manipulation. Most people imagine manipulators as obvious villains. But in real life, manipulation is often subtle. It hides behind kindness, it disguises itself as concern, and sometimes it comes from people you trust the most. The most dangerous manipulators aren't the ones who control you with force. They're the ones who make you think the decisions were yours all along. In this video, we'll explore 7 psychological signs that someone may be secretly manipulating you. And by the end, you'll understand how to recognize these behaviors before they gain control over your emotions, your decisions, and ultimately, your life. Let's begin.
Sign number 1. They make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. One of the most common manipulation tactics is turning your healthy boundaries into something that feels selfish. Imagine telling someone, "I'm sorry, but I can't help this weekend." A healthy person might feel disappointed, but a manipulative person often responds differently. They might say, "Wow, I guess I know where I stand now," or "After everything I've done for you." Notice what's happening. Instead of respecting your decision, they're making you feel guilty for having one. The goal isn't understanding. The goal is compliance. Manipulators know that guilt is one of the most powerful emotional weapons because many good-hearted people would rather sacrifice their own needs than feel like they've hurt someone. Over time, you begin saying yes when you want to say no, not because you agree, but because you want the guilt to stop. And that's exactly how manipulation works.
Sign number 2. They constantly play the victim. Have you ever noticed how some people are never responsible for anything? Every conflict is someone else's fault. Every failure is because of bad luck. Every criticism becomes an attack. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as a victim mentality. While genuine suffering is real, chronic victimhood can become a manipulation strategy. Because if someone is always the victim, then everyone else becomes the villain. Imagine confronting a friend about something hurtful they said. Instead of acknowledging your feelings, they suddenly begin talking about how difficult their life has been. Before you know it, you're comforting the person who hurt you. The conversation shifts, the focus changes, and accountability disappears. Manipulators often redirect sympathy towards themselves because sympathy can be used as a shield against responsibility.
Sign number 3. They make you question your own memory. This is one of the most psychologically damaging forms of manipulation. You clearly remember something happening, but the other person insists it didn't. They say things like, "That never happened. You're imagining things. You're too sensitive. You're remembering it wrong." Eventually, you start wondering if maybe they're right. This tactic is often called gaslighting. The goal isn't necessarily to convince you of a specific lie. The goal is to make you distrust your own perception of reality. Once someone can make you doubt yourself, they gain enormous influence over your decisions. Because if you can't trust your own judgment, you'll start relying on theirs, and that's exactly what they want.
Sign number 4. Their kindness always comes with strings attached. True generosity is given freely. Manipulative generosity is an investment expecting returns. At first, they seem incredibly helpful. They buy gifts, offer favors, support you when you need help. But later, those acts become emotional debt. Suddenly, you hear things like, "Remember what I did for you? I thought you owed me this. After everything I've done." What once looked like kindness becomes leverage, and the relationship starts feeling more like a transaction than a connection. Healthy people help because they care. Manipulative people sometimes help because they want future control. The difference becomes clear when you try to say no.
Sign number 5. They create confusion on purpose. Manipulation thrives in uncertainty. The less clarity you have, the easier you are to control. Some people constantly send mixed signals. One day they're warm and affectionate, the next day they're cold and distant. One moment they praise you, the next they criticize you. You spend so much energy trying to figure out where you stand that you stop paying attention to how their behavior affects you.
This unpredictability creates emotional dependency because humans naturally seek consistency. And when consistency is missing, our brains work overtime trying to restore it. The manipulator becomes the source of both the problem and the relief, which keeps you emotionally hooked. Sign number 6. They use your empathy against you. Empathy is one of humanity's greatest strengths, but in the wrong hands, it can become a vulnerability. Manipulators are often skilled at identifying compassionate people, people who forgive easily, people who want to understand others, people who see the good in everyone. These qualities are beautiful, but manipulators sometimes exploit them. Whenever they're confronted, they provide explanations, excuses, justifications, stories that trigger your compassion. And because you're empathetic, you keep giving them another chance, and another, and another. Eventually, you find yourself tolerating behaviors you would never accept from anyone else, not because they're changing, but because you keep hoping they will.
Sign number 7. You feel drained after every interaction. Perhaps the biggest sign of all is how you feel afterward. Your body often notices manipulation before your mind does. After spending time with certain people, do you feel exhausted, anxious, guilty, confused, emotionally depleted? Pay attention, because healthy relationships generally leave room for peace. Not perfection, but peace. Even difficult conversations can feel respectful. Manipulative relationships often feel different. You constantly second-guess yourself. You replay conversations in your head. You feel responsible for emotions that aren't yours to carry. And over time, the emotional cost becomes enormous. Your feelings are data. Listen to them. They may be telling you something your mind hasn't fully recognized yet.
The uncomfortable truth is that manipulation isn't always easy to spot, because manipulators rarely begin with control. They begin with trust, and that's what makes them dangerous. But here's the good news. You don't need to become suspicious of everyone. You don't need to stop being kind. You don't need to stop caring. The answer isn't less empathy. It's stronger awareness. Because emotionally intelligent people aren't those who never get manipulated. They're the people who learn to recognize manipulation when it appears. They understand that compassion doesn't require self-sacrifice, that boundaries aren't selfish, and that protecting your peace is not cruelty, it's self-respect. The moment you learn to recognize manipulation, you stop becoming someone else's emotional puppet, and you start becoming the author of your own life. If you found this video valuable, take a moment to reflect. Which of these signs have you experienced the most? Because awareness is where freedom begins.